Welcome to the Feria TechCast, where we bring you all things science, engineering, technology, and innovation. Today, we're joined by Mike Watkins, an auto repair entrepreneur turned business growth expert who transformed a small two-bay shop into an 11-bay powerhouse while revolutionizing hiring practices across industries. Mike's hands-on experience spans 2 decades of turning wrenches, building teams, and developing the innovative Lego test hiring method that's helped businesses far beyond the automotive world. What makes his approach unique is how he combines technical shop knowledge with people-first leadership, reducing employee turnover from 205% to just 26%, while authoring books that help owners work smarter, not harder. So, Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Uh, Thanks for having me.
Okay, all right. So, firstly, I'd like to ask, what kicked off your wild ride into auto repair? Was it a busted engine, a dream to own a shop, or just something totally unexpected that got your gears turning?
I picked up wrenches when I was 5. I had to fix my own bicycle tires. And when I was about 8, all the kids and cousins had motorcycles, and dad had a broken lawnmower engine moped bike in the back. And I started tinkering with trying to get that thing to run so I could have something to ride. And eventually I got that working. I got a motorcycle and I had to fix that. Everything we had was broken. We couldn't afford to send the things to the shop, so I had to figure out how to fix it. And eventually I got my driver's license, and I needed a car, and out there was the old Toyota pickup that hadn't run in months, and I went out and figured out how to get the thing started. And so that's, you know, got me into that. And I went to high school and I did all the classes I could on that. And I just found a lot of joy in taking something that was broken and fixing it. And that's still what I do today. I just do it a lot of times with people as well and employees. I find out what's broken that they need to handle and I help them fix that. And so just it's been a lifetime. I call myself a lifer when it comes to fixing cars. And probably being an entrepreneur as well. I'll probably always be an entrepreneur and always be the boss.
Interesting. So, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced transitioning from technician into business owner?
Um, the biggest challenge I had is, and this is, you'll find this very common in automotive, is the guy becomes a technician and he thinks he wants to start a shop. It looks pretty simple to him, so he quits his job and he goes out and starts fixing the neighbors' cars, but there's not enough work because he runs out of work quickly because he doesn't realize all of the different hats or different job posts that are actually in an automotive shop that people are doing to make it work. So my biggest thing was I went out and I fixed some cars for a while, but then to get to the next expansion point, to get to that, I needed help with people, but I could never find people that would do things the way I wanted to have them done, or they couldn't think with what the next step was, and I didn't know how to find the right people either. Like, my dad, it was just a bad example, but he would pick anybody that didn't have a job. And it turns out that the unemployed are some of the worst places to look for employees because there's a reason they don't have work all the time, you know. So you got to actually find people that are already, industriously engaged in work. Those are the people you want to find and get them to see your vision.
How did you grow from a two-bay shop to an 11-bay uh, employee operation.
Oh yeah. So um at some point in time in there, I'd been running my shop by myself for a couple years, and I couldn't find the right people. And I was getting married, and I knew I was going to have a kid in the next couple years. And my wife said, I'm going to quit my job and raise this kid. So you're going to have to make this shop go. And then she went to the accountant, and the accountant told her how much money I had made that year with the 2 bay shop. It was just me running the place, and she cried. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I started realizing that, I could see a future where I was continuing to do what I was doing, and I wasn't going to have the outcomes and the success if something didn't change. So I started realizing at one point, I realized, hey, and this is, I think, really important for people to get is you're where you're at because that's what you know. And you got to reach out past what you know and find information that you don't know to get to the next step. Because if you know it, you'd already be doing it. So there's something you don't know. And that's when I realized I could use some help. And so I started checking out with these guys that put on the seminars, and I found a group, and we went, and I spent my last $400 going to one of these seminars, and decided this is the right group, and I agreed, and we paid for a consulting program. And that consultant, there was all the difference I needed. It was founded in very, very good business technology, very simple things that I could understand to do, including how to price the jobs, but also the basic operations that I was trying to do, and then how to hire people that really the psychology of people to a degree enough that I could find the right mechanics and know when I'm interviewing that they're going to actually be able to fix the car and they want to fix the car. And also who to hire for my front counter might be a different person than who I'm going to have fix the cars. And that consultant gave me enough tools because I had all the tools in the toolbox as a mechanic. I know all my tools. I'm still very good at using tools now. I know them, right? And a lot of people know how to build roofs, but they don't know how to run a business. And a lot of people know how to design things, but they don't know how to run the business of design. And it's because it's learning different tools. And so you've got to expand your tools. And running a business is not the same as fixing a car. I had these hammers and pry bars and screwdrivers and wrenches. And running a business requires a different set of tools in order to manage. And by management, I don't mean barely getting by. I mean managing. I mean taking my shop where it is and expanding it over here. And that consultant gave me those tools, that new toolbox, and the new frame of mind that I needed to enhance that toolbox in order to achieve the results that I was looking for.
Interesting. So, how did you shift from working in the business to working on the business? I mean, what system changed everything?
I'll tell you what it was. I wrote down, I separated the business into three hats at the shop. I needed a mechanic, and at the time it was me. I needed someone to sell the work. That couldn't be me because I can't do those two things at the same time. And I needed someone to manage the the other stuff that's going on, marketing, promotion, all the things that as a mechanic I never saw behind the scenes, doing all the paperwork and the bookwork. So I wrote out the hats, all of the stuff for each hat, and I separated these into job descriptions and hats. And once I had those three, it was interesting. But around that time, the guy has told me one key nice thing is somebody who whistles while they're working is really they kind of emotionally up high. They people like them. They like people. I ran into a guy that from church that he was whistling all the time. I'm like, that's a good indicator. They told me I'm gonna see if he wants to come work. And I worked with him for a few days, and he was just a pleasure to be around. And I said, fix this car. And he took it apart. And I realized he was never going to put it back together. And so I looked at him one day and I said, go up front and answer the phone. And so he did that. And then the next week, I found a mechanic and I put that guy in the back. Well, the next week, I was going on my honeymoon. And I told the guys at the shop, I said, don't call me. I'm not going to answer the phone. I don't want to know if the place burned down. I'm going on a honeymoon. I'm going to completely be away from this place for a week without even thinking about it. And so I left. And in the middle of that week that I was gone, I had one plus point there was that the guy I bought the shop from, he was an older gentleman in the 70s. He came in and helped kind of watch what was going on and help the with if there's any questions. So I had that little guy to help me out. I had that guy there. And I came back from the honeymoon. Well, in the middle of the week, the mechanic I hired, he quit. So here was my sales guy. He's trying to sell all this work and all these cars needed to fix, and the mechanic quit. So um the guy not knowing what to do, he looked outside and he saw that there was a reader board on the sign. So he put help wanted. And the next day somebody showed up and said, I could be here tomorrow afternoon. And he showed up and he started fixing the cars. So when rolled around Monday the next week, I walked into the shop and there was a mechanic fixing the cars, a guy selling the work. And I thought, wow, that didn't take very long at all. I went into my office and I did what my consultant had told me to do: start managing, promote, look for another mechanic. You've got all this work. Let's sell more work. Let's get more cars fixed. And so I had these posts filled. So I started the next step. And so it didn't take very long at all. I know a lot of people in businesses, they uh, try to find somebody to do this one small thing and they get stuck down there. The idea that it takes a long time to get something done is false. Sometimes you got to be willing to gamble. I mean, the biggest gambling addicts out there on the planet aren't guys that go to Las Vegas. They're people that run businesses. It's the biggest gamble of all. Luckily, with tools, it can be calculated. You know,
Interesting. So, you've placed a big emphasis on personal development for yourself, your employees, and your consulting clients. Why is personal growth such a core value for you, and how has it impacted your success in the business and life generally?
well, this universe is very interesting. You're either expanding or you're contracting. So a person is the same thing. Either you're expanding as a being or you're declining as a being, right? You're expanding as a business owner or you're dying as a business owner, and your staff are no different. So to develop yourself is the most important thing. It's that I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and read tens of thousands of pages of books to get better. And I think that's the only reason that I've been able to make it through, along with all the other entrepreneurs out there that are successful. And they'll tell you the same thing. To get through all this stuff, you've got to be working on those points, not only improve what you're bad at, but also improve what you're good at. Because somebody else is going to come along that's maybe a little bit better than you, and you've got to be able to compete.
That is interesting. So, Mike, you've turned employee turnover from 205%, so a win of 26%. So how, like, what's the secret sauce in your training or hiring playbook that our listeners could learn from?
All right. So, one of the things that I know is very people have a lot of difficulty with is the hiring and the people. And in fact, you can have the best structure of the business, you can have everything written out. If you don't have someone who wants to do it, has a desire to do it and follow instructions, you're wasting your time with the system because they're not going to do it. So therefore, you have to hire the right people to start with. They've got to be and have the right characteristics. All right. Now, how are we going to do that today? Because people are training today to fool you in the seat here in front of me. They're coming in and it's like the first date and they're looking all bright and shiny. It's not really them. Most of these people, I call them a walnut. You got to crack through and find out inside, is it rotten or is there a good nut inside? Or are they nuts inside? Because what you're going to get in the interview usually is a lie, and you're going to have to figure out how many lies they have. There are lots of good employees out there that come in and they are who they are. But an entrepreneur and very new at interviewing, you're not going to see that right away, and you're going to make lots of mistakes. And I struggled with this personally. This was the thing that was ruining hiring people back when I started in 2004 up until 2017, is I was always hiring the same people over and over again. It was insanity. It was like they'd be good for a little bit and then they'd start to suck, or it's like the honeymoon was over after 5 days or 30 days, and so always waiting for the next guy. Well, hiring takes time, finding them takes time, and then you got to interview them. Well, I dreaded doing the interview, and I was had this thought in my head this whole time: how can I figure out the interview to find out? Because I did learn that there are certain kinds of people based on their emotion that are going to be the right people, and then certain people who are not. And I could filter out half of the people, no problem, but it was the other half that I was getting confused. And one day I was with my kids. It was Christmas Day. They bought me this Star Wars Lego kit. It was huge. It's like 1,000 pieces, and I was putting it together several hours, and I missed a piece, taking and following instructions. And I'm like, wow, I missed that. That's interesting. But I was in this quite a ways before I made a mistake, and I thought, and a little light kicked on my head. I said, I'm going to just check to see. This is pretty simple instructions. I'm wondering about some of my mechanics because they just seem slower than what I think they should be. And they're always telling me it's this and it's that. It's the workflow. It's the sales guy. All right. So the day after Christmas, I go to Walmart. I buy some Lego kits, small kits. And then the next day, I tell the guys, hey, we're going to take a break. Well, one of the guys didn't show up, so I had four mechanics. One of them doesn't show up, so I have three guys standing in front of me. I said, here you go, 1, 2, 3 kits. I said, the guy that gets done first, he's gonna get $20. Start. And they go after it. And the one guy who's really efficient, never gave me any trouble, okay, he got done in 8 minutes. 25 minutes later, the guy one guy's still struggling, and I look at the Lego kit. It's not even done right. He didn't even like take the instructions off of the book and put the thing together right. And and then the other guy, he's struggling too. And I realized, you know what? And I'm looking at it, and that's when I just it's like this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is why. It has nothing to do with me. They have problems. They can't think. They can't match the pieces together. That's why it takes them longer to put the cars together. That's why we have issues with some of the cars coming back not correctly fixed. And from that point on, I realized I needed to basically get rid of everybody. And the one guy that didn't show up, I tested him later, and he did the test 3 times to build those legs, and he didn't build it right all 3 times. So I decided then I was going to get rid of all of my guys but that one guy. And I started interviewing people, putting the Legos together, and the difference was amazing because I could train people who could at least see that they could put what was drawn on paper, they could put together with their hands, right? And I've started realizing that in interviewing that the ability to duplicate, right? And I would just give people the test without asking, do you want to work for me? Are you going to follow instructions? Um, are you going to do what I ask you to do? And everybody says yes to these questions, right? And so I would just give them the Lego kit in the interview. I say, build me that. And I would wait to see what kind of reactions. I got people would get up and leave the interview. Well, obviously they weren't good employees. They were never going to do what I wanted them to do. And I realized then when the guys got up and left that this Lego kit that I called the Lego test, and I wrote a book about it after interviewing several hundreds of people, and now we're into the thousands of people, that I'm able to break through this walnut shell facade and get to the core of who this person is in front of me. And for me, what it did is I had confidence when I had hired somebody now that I knew, hey, if he could take these Legos, he could put them together the way that it says, then I'm confident that he's or she can follow the instructions and do what I want him to do. And in my book, I go over all of these things that I've been able to pick out that are all good qualities. In the book, there's 7 or 8 things that an employer wants in an employee that can be derived out of doing just this simple Lego test. And it's like you can test somebody. The box of Legos $12. You know, you buy the book, it's like $10 or $8 on Amazon. For $20, you get the best employee test on the planet. And since then, my turnover has been so low because I'm not hiring the wrong people.
Interesting. So, your book, The Lego Test, sounds like a game changer for hiring. So, tell us how this Lego test can be used for hiring in businesses beyond the automotive repair business.
I'll give you a perfect example of this. Okay. So I actually gave the Lego test to a woman who was going to be my bookkeeper. And the first thing she says to me when I give it to her is she's rejecting it. And she says, "You know, I'm interviewing to be your bookkeeper, not a mechanic." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, money has a lot of parts to it." And it's true. Money is a very complicated thing within the business. It's moving, twisting, splitting, going different ways. It's if you can't put Legos together, you're never going to do a balance sheet, right? I'm not even asking you to read. I'm just asking you to identify similar pieces and put them together. And I'm going to tell you right now, that lady had an attitude problem. She thought she knew best. And I don't need that in a business, and no entrepreneur needs that. They need people who want to cooperate. So putting something together like Legos, they're pretty simple. You think it's just hand-eye coordination. It's more than that. It's how that person's reaction to an order is, their ability to do that. And then I noticed things in there like how easily someone got frustrated. The next interview, there was a person and they were breathing really, really heavy. Well, that putting the Legos together was taxing their ability. I'm not kidding you. And I'm like, if they're having emotional trouble doing an 8-year-old to 11-year-old kid's toy, what are they going to do when there's a customer that's upset? What are they going to do when they run into a barrier of something that they don't understand? They're going to throw their hands up, they're going to pout, they're going to throw wrenches, or they're going to, you know, mess up something in the books, right? They're gonna not do the job. They're just gonna stop. And that means I have to go in and solve the problem for them. And so I started recognizing that if someone cannot do the Lego test, they're not worth putting on any post in any company. Because either they great, you'll find people that can totally do it, but they have a shitty attitude. Okay. They were totally capable of doing it, but they thought it was beneath them. But really, what it is they'll only take orders that they want to do. So it definitely cuts through the crap of attitude that a lot of people with, and a lot of them will have, let's just say, like, oh, the perfect looking resume. I did all this training and I got 20 years. And you know what'll happen, Ezekiel? You know what'll happen, guys? They will they won't learn shit, and they're going to do it their way. They think you're hiring them because they have all this experience, but entrepreneurs are not hiring people just because they know how to do something. We're hiring people that will learn to do it the way we want it done, the way we want it done, and are willing to do it that way. So, key point on hiring is the willingness. Attitude and willingness are senior in hiring to anything. I have hired people that have willing attitudes, that have gone far beyond and been better, reliable employees, right, than people with degrees. I don't care how many companies you work for and how much they were worth when you come in and think you already know how to run my business without even learning my business. You're already telling me how to do it. And I would tell you that a lot of entrepreneurs out there have also had this same experience. So when you give someone the Lego test for the first time, you're looking at these reactions that you're giving them. Like, I can tell you that the best person, she's now a business partner with me. Like, I like this person so well that I bought another shop. I had her do the transaction, buy it, do all the paperwork, and I put the money out there, and she did everything and became a partner with me. And she still helps me at this shop to this day. I was so impressed with the fact that I gave her the Legos. She looked at it and just started doing it right away. Okay. And then when it came to the first thing that she did, and when within a day, she's like, hey, nobody did this thing. Do you want me to go ahead and do that? And I thought for a second, oh, she's asking to do that. Nobody ever asked to do something like this and then actually does it. And I'm like, well, what the heck? And all of a sudden, I found out that that was what she does. Her Lego test showed up, and then her work after that performed exactly the same way. Was the same person in the interview as the same person who showed up and has showed up every day for 5 years since. She is that good that she can do these Lego tests and interview people and know and look at it and say, this guy, like, he interviewed, but, you know, he, he looked at the Lego test like this for a few minutes and then decided to start moving, right? Well, communication is also an important factor. And if someone is really slow at communicating, they're going to be slow at doing everything else as well.
Hmm, interesting. So, you co-authored a book that says car count is not your problem. I mean,
That's right.
I'd like to know what should owners then focus on instead? I mean, this coming from somebody that owns an auto repair shop. So I'd like to really understand the idea behind it.
Well, and this can go uh, beyond cars. And this book was specific for auto shop owners, but in reading the context of the message that's in there, this the way people are so poor at handling people and actually interviewing people properly, whether they have any kind of service business or even if they're selling clothes. Um, we've been so poorly handled by salespeople that we don't want to be, as customers, we don't want to be handled by salespeople. And as salespeople, we don't really want to handle customers because it's like, oh, let's hurry. Do they want to buy something or not? Nope, they don't want to buy. Hopefully the next person is the pot of gold I'm looking for. And what happens is people get focused on having all of this traffic in their business of people coming in. They need to have it instead of looking at what the customer's needs are and having them actually help them understand what they need and want. And so, for an example, in the automotive business, the average car that we look at might need $4,000 to $5,000 worth of work. The average car right now, and that could be in Florida, Idaho, or Arizona. If it's inspected, that's the number. And I have that as fact. Now, the average shop's going to sell $400 to $800 worth of work. But the shops that we have trained with car count is not your problem, doubles that to an average of $1,400 to $1,600, meaning every customer that's coming through the door is now willing to spend twice as much money. Well, what does that do for my service advisor? Well, he can spend twice as much time with that customer, or the sales move up twice as much. And so we're handling the customer better. We're helping them actually achieve their goals. We're taking sales and actually in the use of these Legos, I've actually put the secret steps of what we're doing in the shop to take advantage of all the cars that we have. In our business, everybody's always like, I need more cars, I need more cars, I need more cars. But your customer's spending this average amount when they should be spending this much. But you're not convincing them to spend this much because you don't know how. So you're trying to solve the solution by getting 3 or 4 more people, when the real solution is to help those people that have the money that want to take care of their car, i.e., the customer, whether you're in construction, if you're any kind of service, the plumbing person that's calling the plumber and they're like, I need a plumber because the toilet's clogged, and the guy comes all the way out to the house. Well, while you're here, let's check everything else out so that I don't have to pay for another emergency fee. And pretty soon you're getting the routine maintenance done on a house that's never had the water heater fixed, or or any of these other serviceable items, or the other toilet's about ready to start leaking. And you get the guy out there and he helps you with your plumbing and you don't have that problem anymore.
That is great. So, tell us, what's the most common mistake you see shops and service business owners make when trying to grow?
I think the most common mistake is they don't actually have the steps written down of what their process is exactly. Exactly. And I'll give you an example of perhaps the largest chains in the world and what they have exactly. McDonald's has an exact system. No one gets to put the French fries on for 30 seconds longer because they feel that's what needs to be done. The fry cook stands in the exact same place in every store. Okay. There's 2 lanes and 2 windows. Okay. Walmart has certain product lines, and that's what they're allowed to have. They have an exact system. And too much entrepreneurs try to expand without having that system written down and known. Then they lose employees and they find themselves going back and having to reestablish the system over and over again. And I'll bring that up to one of the things that does car count is not your problem. One of the vital steps that we have in our system is the vehicle inspection, where every vehicle that comes in gets an inspection, no matter what. If you don't want your car inspected, that's fine. You don't want me to work on it. I'm not doing it. And so the system has to be in place in order for you to put, and it has to be well thought out and well organized in order for you to put the hats in place. Think of the train or the airplanes with no routes to go anywhere. Without the train track laid, you can have all the train engines in the world and all the people, but if you don't know why they're going and where they're going, and it's not exactly done and exactly on time, you're just going to have a disaster.
That's great. So, you went from fixing cars to consulting with peak consulting, and I think that's quite a brilliant pivot. So, what's one tech tool or strategy that's revolutionized how you help businesses grow, and why does it work?
The strategy that helps businesses grow, the one thing that the entrepreneur needs is one, they need help themselves because it's them uh, with the employees, but they're not with the employees are not with them without the right tools. A consultant is there to be a reinforcement to the energy that the guy's bringing to the table, that gal's bringing to the table as an entrepreneur with the idea. You need that other person. And the other aspect um, is the personal development. Um, and once you're doing your personal development, you'll recognize helping and developing the other people, because the one thing that I got with that I liked with my consulting was they weren't there to fix my business. Okay, I don't go in and just point out, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is, you need to do this and this, and then 6 months later you got new people or something changes. Now you've got to like come in and pay for this again. I'm helping the entrepreneur find these things out for themselves and also train up to that level so that they can diagnose exactly what's going on in their own business. Is it my staff? Is it my personnel? Is it my own personal problems? Is it my promotion in my business, or is it my procedure? And that's how we help people expand.
That is great. So, tell us, Mike, how do you balance being a consultant, shop owner, husband, and hobby pilot without burning out?
There is no balance. Uh, I think it's a lie to say there's some kind of balance. I'm here to tell you right now, anybody that says everything's balanced, they don't want to work. It it's always lopsided. Okay. Uh you'll find it all of a sudden I'm on the court. In fact, I got 5 weeks until I'm gonna go do what I'm extremely passionate about, which is hiking in the mountains and dirt biking and hunting. I got 5 weeks to put the pedal to the metal on my business, right? On my businesses, so that I could kind of handle them over here while I'm doing all my hobbies, right? And I got to figure out how to get the family in there too, right? And sometimes there's nothing with the family. And then one thing about I've learned to do is when I'm with my family, I put the phone away and I'm with them and we're going to go hiking. We went on a vacation and I didn't work the whole time. I brought the laptop, I left it in the bag, and we had fun the whole trip. And then when I got done, good. I gave them real time. Now, this other thing is going to need my attention, and I'm going to go on to that, right? and I'm going to just keep moving around. And it doesn't always, things aren't always bad. I don't think they'll ever be balanced. I think that's, I don't know how I would, if it wasn't out of balance, I don't know that I would be that interested. It wouldn't be challenging enough. So, like right now, I'm not flying right now. And I'm going to be flying next year. I've got it all scheduled. And one thing I do is the, there's two things that are a vital tool that any entrepreneur has that they have to have, and it's hard to get in. And once it gets in, makes all the difference. But if you get this in your first year, great. It's taken me 15 years to do it. One is a a targeted plan out to a year. I know where I'm going to be in February right now. Okay, I know where I'm going to be in March. I'm doing some travel. I'm going to Australia in May. I plug in all these really important dates. Okay, and then all of the other stuff that has to get done fills in there. I'm putting all the important things. I'm looking ahead. That's the schedule. On my board over here, you can't quite see it. Maybe you can. It's a tool I have. There's all the months of the year with all of the different compartments and what needs to occur every month. It's it's not a computer generated thing because I like to sit and look at it and I like to draw on it and I'm not going to be staring at a screen all day. It's old school. I put a picture up. I'm looking at it. I put the picture of what I want on it. Super helpful. And then keeping the schedule. You put the thing down on that and you keep to that. You got a 3 o'clock, you get to the 3 o'clock, right? Everybody else's stuff needs to get out of the way. You got a date night at 7, you make sure that you get to the date night, right? The important events. Tomorrow there'll always be work, right? And I find too that work, it just with any employee as well, you can be 3 times as efficient. You can be 100% efficient, or you can be efficient, or you can be inefficient. And most of that's a decision, and your employees are the same way. They can decide a task is going to take an hour and then get it done in 15 minutes. So it's really a decision that you make.
Interesting. I mean, that sheds light on prioritization and the importance. Yeah, I mean, you got to uh like p pick a date for something that's important to do, and make sure every other thing fits in. So make sure that you are able to meet up with these important dates that you've pre-scheduled. Yeah, makes sense to me. So, tell us. What advice would you give to a new business owner struggling to grow or hire the right people?
Well, hiring the right people, go backwards. If you don't get my book, that's a big mistake. Okay, because it's so simple. It's the cheapest thing you're going to do to train on hiring. You need to be able to interview before you can recruit people, right? You need to personally find and train and develop your skills and spend a lot of time doing that. I spend half the time of the year doing that and the other half working. I spend more time training. Personal development is the best investment you can make. So those are conferences, those are meeting with big wigs, those are reaching as far as you can reach to, go to those gurus. Yeah, you take it in, they give you the energy, you absorb the energy, you go give it to your staff. Here's a key thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand why they don't get good talent. They don't get good talent because good people don't want to work for crappy employers. And you have to prove to that person that you're going to be worthy of them taking their stable life and potentially going to your unstable life, right? You think about a
Yeah,
talent individual, they don't want to risk it. I can tell you, I've had some really qualified mechanics come in my shop and they're scared to work for me because I'm going to stretch them. They know the environment is stable, but it's actually the opposite of they want to be comfortable and get paid a lot of money. And I want to pay them a lot of money and I want to make them uncomfortable because it's not satisfactory for me to have someone who's just not growing as a human being, not growing as an employee. Because again, they're either expanding or contracting. This physical universe, we're no different than the physical universe. We either expand or contract. So if I hire somebody, let's say that's older, and that's a fact, older people, I have to really believe that they haven't hit their prime or past it. I'm not going to hire them if they're like on the downhill to be retired. If they start talking about retirement and such, I'm thinking, I'm letting you out. I'm going to let you go feed in somebody else's pasture, not mine. I don't got time for that shit. I'm not retiring. Yeah, it doesn't make sense because
Yeah,
to me, retire might as well say die next to it. If you're really excited about life and what you're doing, you're growing and expanding. Warren Buffett is still working. One of the richest men on the planet still working. The richest man on the planet is still working hard every day. And it's a responsibility to do so.
yeah, that's great. So, Mike, there's this last question I'd like to ask you. So, I normally like to save this one for the last to ask every guest I interview here on this show. So, tell us, what does innovation mean to you and how it relates to your field?
Innovation to me is it's really like you imagine what something could be and you don't get reasonable about it. In other words, you don't say, "Oh, that's just not going to happen." No, you go for it. I think right now, innovations, I'm using AI right now in everything I'm doing with my business. I'm innovating on filming everything. In a month from now, what I just did may be out of date because maybe AI is so smart it starts to do that for me. I hope so. But really the reality of is you got to think ahead and you got to innovation is just like wow blowing your mind on what something could be and then going for it, taking the first step towards it as if you're the astronaut walking on the moon for the first time. You just imagine it, you get crazy about it and you go for it, and the key part of it is you go for it. You don't think about it and do nothing. You try it.
That is interesting. So, finally, tell us, where's the best place for people to connect with you or grab your books?
I'm on LinkedIn. I've got my books on Amazon, The Lego Test, Hire Right the First Time. I think Anne has gotten you the link tree on that, and if not, we'll get you the link tree. We have a link tree with the links to the books. And shop owners, you can reach me at nextlevelshopowner.com or let's see, CAO at nextlevelshopowner.com is a great email address for me.
All right, Mike. So, it's been a wonderful conversation with you, and it was nice having you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.